What is going on, guys, and welcome back to Fiction Empire. Now today I've got a very special video for you guys. We're going to do a part 2 of what if Maul killed Obi-Wan Kenobi in Star Wars Rebels. But before we start the video for today, I would like to remind you, smash a like on the video if you do enjoy the content. Also do remember to click the subscribe button as well if you haven't subscribed to the channel already. Also, if you haven't seen the first part of this fanfiction, I'll leave a link in the video description so you can watch that first. And now, without further ado, let's get on with this fanfiction. Alright, so we're going to quickly do a recap of what happened in part 1. So basically what happened, Maul killed Kenobi, Ezra killed Maul while he was daydreaming. Because Kenobi's dead, Luke will die by the Sand People, meaning that there's no one there to blow up the Death Star, meaning the Death Star will destroy the Rebel Alliance, meaning the Empire will live on for longer, Darth Vader will achieve more Force abilities. However, on the other side of the galaxy, Yoda, Ahsoka, and Ezra would all team up and rally together, species that were unhappy with the Imperial occupation and gradually over time build up their forces to take on the Empire, which is where we left off at the end, which is where we left off in part 1. Alright, so for part 2 we're just going to backtrack a little bit and fully explain how they built up their forces. So basically a lot of civilians would be getting fed up of the Imperial's rule of terror. However, they knew that they couldn't do anything about it because the rebellion was destroyed and they didn't really have the skills to take on the Empire in combat. However, the reappearance of 3 Jedi would inspire a lot of these civilians to fight back against the Empire, as the Jedi gave them a glimmer of hope against the Empire. However, since there were only 3 Jedi and no support at the start, they would only target Outer Rim territories where the Imperial occupation was low and they could stay under the radar. Yoda, Ahsoka, and Ezra would inspire many civilians on these Outer Rim territories to rebel against the Empire. They would gather their forces throughout the Outer Rim and create a new rebellion. However, this rebellion would be much more under the radar than the last one, as they only targeted Outer Rim territories. Within a year, this new rebellion would have taken over and made bases on the planets Rodia, Christophsis, Ankanis, Ryloth, Cala, and Felucia. Obviously the Empire noticed, but the 3 Jedi would stay undercover, pulling the strings off the battlefield. A little like the Underon saga in the Clone Wars Season 5. As the Empire didn't know about the Jedi, they didn't take the rebellion seriously, and very little was done about it, because they thought that the threat that they posed was at a minimal. And the systems that they were taking over weren't that important to the Empire as well. They were just taking over Outer Rim territories and not core worlds. However, now that they had control of several planets and gathered together many forces on these planets, they were ready to strike with all their might against the Empire. Yoda, Ahsoka, and Ezra would gather their mass forces together. Their forces would contain many Mon Cala and Quarren from the planet Mon Cala, many of the Twi'leks from Ryloth, and a lot of Rodians from Rodia. When gathered together with the 3 Jedi, they had a massive army. Now they were ready to mount an invasion on Coruscant, as they knew that was the key planet for the Empire, and they knew they had to take control over it if they wanted to restore the peace. The new rebellion's fleet would then mount their attack on Coruscant with their masses of ships that they had got from all the planets that they had taken over. They blasted out of hyperspace and loomed over Coruscant. To meet them was an Imperial blockade. However, it was very small, as they weren't expecting an invasion. The new rebellion would vastly outnumber this Imperial blockade and smash through them and onto the planet. The starships would open up and unleash their mass army onto Coruscant. Again, the Imperials were caught off guard and overwhelmed by their sheer numbers of their forces. As the stormtroopers decreased in numbers, the rebels kept on increasing as the people of Coruscant started to revolt with them. In no time, the rebels would obliterate all Imperial forces on the planet with the help of all the people. However, the battle was far from over. Out of hyperspace popped a giant base. It looked like a moon, but they all knew what it was: the Death Star. In one swift strike, the Death Star would obliterate Coruscant, killing everyone on it. Yoda, Ahsoka, and Ezra who had not landed on the planet, watched in dismay. All their hard work vanished in front of their eyes. All that was left now was Yoda, Ahsoka, and Ezra, and 2 pilots. Ahsoka and Ezra would sit down, defeated and heartbroken. However, Yoda just stood there, staring at the lost planet. He had lost everything again. Their final hope. Or was it? Suddenly, Yoda's eyes sparkled as something inside him seemed to change. He then realized that the Jedi had been wrong all along, and realized that you had to use both light and dark, as long as it was for good, of course. He would then decide to take control of the ship and fly directly towards the Death Star. He could not fail again. He had to avenge their deaths. This newfound hope would also inspire Ahsoka and Ezra. They would land on the Death Star, and the 3 of them would ruthlessly obliterate all of their forces in a whirlwind of fury. Yoda's powers would be multiplied by 10, as he released all that suppressed anger that he had contracted throughout the Clone Wars and all the loss that he had suffered. Yoda, Ahsoka, and Ezra would then arrive at the throne room after defeating all the stormtroopers to see Darth, Vader, and the Emperor, the 2 men who took everything from them. They would then engage in a mass battle, Yoda taking on Vader, the man that had destroyed his Jedi Order, and Ezra and Ahsoka would take on Sidious. The epic fights both went on for ages, with neither being victorious. However, despite Yoda's newfound powers, he would start to tire, because after all, he was over 900 years old. Vader, with one clinical strike, would stab Yoda in the chest and force him back into the wall. At that same moment, Sidious would slice Ezra in half with a swift, powerful blow, and kick Ahsoka to the ground, and almost kill her with Force lightning, until Vader would freeze, and think back to all the happy memories with Ahsoka.
You're reckless, little one. You never would have made it as Obi-Wan's Padawan. But you might make it as mine. Come on.
And all of a sudden, he would realize what he had done, and the pain that he had caused, and turn on his master and embrace in another epic battle and save his former Padawan from dying. Meanwhile, Yoda, who was on the verge of death, looked to see Vader fighting Sidious. However, it wasn't Vader. Anakin had now returned. He would then look to his right, out of the window of the Death Star, to see a massive fleet of ships. The news of what had happened in Coruscant had now spread across the galaxy, and inspired species across the galaxy to gather together and defeat the Empire once and for all. Anakin then realized this, which gave him an extra spurt of energy to defeat his old master. Anakin would run over to Yoda and embrace himself with the light side of the Force to heal Yoda's wound. Ahsoka would then clamber back to her feet and embrace her old master. They would then quickly realize the fleet was going to blow up the Death Star, so they rushed off the Death Star and watched the mechanism of terror blow up into thousands of pieces as they watched safely from their escape pod. Order had been restored to the galaxy, and Anakin had restored balance to the Force, just as the prophecy had said. The Empire would now be abolished from their galaxy, and the New Republic would be formed. And they would build a new Jedi Temple on Corellia, which would be the new key planet of the New Republic. Yoda and Ahsoka would learn from their past mistakes in this new Jedi Order, and would learn to embrace both sides of the Force. However, they would have to use their powers for good. Anakin would soon be forgiven, and via Force healing would be able to return back to his previous form, with all his scars from Mustafar being healed. The galaxy would finally be at peace, with the Empire now gone and balance finally restored to the Force. Now I hope you did enjoy the video for today. Make sure you do leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and may the Force be with you.